So that was a quick break, and I hope everyone is feeling good about this wonderful functions making our lives easier, right? So now after our break, let's carry on. Try to see if I can finish this in 30 minutes, but practice is the key that we need to get. Actually, I need to refresh this page. Let's refresh that. It's probably going to give me an error. All right, so what questions do you have from what we have covered so far? Go for it, Aaron.
I'm good. As I said, just writing 5 lines of code that is working. It's crazy for me. So,
Okay. Yeah, again, Python doesn't have to be complicated. We said it's better for it to be complex than complicated. What we have here is complex, but it's not complicated. We broke it down bit by bit. And just like we said, we just grabbed this from the other file, the functions file. Another team could have been working on that. We don't need to understand what they were working. We don't need to know anything. They'll just tell us, hey, you know that this function gets a user input and outputs an integer. Totally fine with us. We can go ahead and use it. Okay. So another thing I want to tell you is functions actually have modules. So we could have gone in and just go ahead and, oops, let me make this bigger. We could have gone ahead and instead of copying that file over, let me make sure that it's correct on here. Yeah, I need to make sure that I update it on this other side. Let me just copy it over. So another team was working on this. And we have that. Nope, I did not copy it. Copy that and paste it. There you go. Oh, I did not need to do that. Let's delete that. I copied the entire file. Yes, move it to trash. Okay, so let's go ahead again. I want to copy this, select everything, right click, copy, come in here, select everything, right click and paste. Awesome. So now I have name of input. If I have this file in here, it is saved, Control S, and I have this file in here. I don't need to reinvent the wheel and type it again. Okay. With Python, all I can do is import functions.py. So it's importing this file. If it has imported the file, all I need to do is instead of enter input, I'm having an error. If I go ahead and type functions, but enter input, it works just fine. So it's telling me that go into this functions file and get that enter input function that you created. So it's the same thing for the rest of the other ones. Let me press enter so I can see it. And press enter in here. Oops, error. I need to put it in front of it. And also do an enter in here. So that's pretty much all that modules are. Okay. Now a library is going to have an entire folder maybe of all these separate files. So one team already worked on it. They told us, guys, you know what? If you need to get an input and change the input to an integer, go ahead and import our function. And there's a function in there that says blah, 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 blah. And you execute this, it should run just fine. Okay. So let's drag this back up. And you should be good. Yes, question.
Yes, Prof, if that function .py was in another folder, maybe one step down,
yeah,
would you still call it the same way?
Very good. If it was one step down, you have to probably use hierarchical, which is something that we're going to talk about very shortly, though.
Okay, that's fine. Then I will just wait for it. Yeah.
Yes, a very good question. So in that case, it becomes a package, and then you can sort it out and see, for example, when we look at the math library, The math library has various different modules in there. You can have math.py to give you the pi that we use for pi radio square. You can have math.random, which is what we're going to use to be able to randomly select numbers that we'll be able to use for our rock, paper, scissors program. So very good question. But I just wanted to demonstrate this to you very quickly. And I'm having an error message, but that's probably because I'm not having an input somewhere. So let's execute this. Yep, that's an error message, 1 required in the position name of input. Why do I not have it? So it's saying I should go into page 5. In here, name of input. Oh, I see, because I called it here and I didn't use it. So I didn't need to call that in there. Let me go ahead and comment those out. And then I should be good. Yep. So I don't need to call my function in there. Save that. And then come back to my keyword arguments and execute. So enter pay, $50. John has entered an input, enter regular hours. Let's say this time they did not do overtime, 38 hours or overtime, and they made 1900. Okay. So again, that's how easy you can do it. But let's carry on and go back to our presentation for today. A few things that I had to point out. So we've looked at, oopsie, why is it not? Let me refresh this. It's not giving me the correct value. But yeah, so what you've seen before is a difference of void functions and fruitful functions. Functions that do not give us any output are known as void functions, right? So it performs actions but do not return any value back to us. Usually we want that value to be returned so we can assign it to a bucket. We can assign it to a variable, and then we can use it as we need, right? If we need that, then we need a return function, which is known as a fruitful function. Some cases it returns 1 value, some cases it returns 2 values or more values, depending on what we're trying to do, okay? So we've looked at an example and talked about it earlier than we expected. So I think everybody is good with this so far, right? Question, Aaron.
So is it advisable to define various functions and just import them?
Very good. Anything that you know you're going to reuse, there's no need to do it more than one time. Just write a function and reuse it as much as possible. That's what makes programming fun. And that's what makes Python very powerful. So when we were using Anaconda, Anaconda is huge because it's made up of many libraries. Many libraries means many folders with many different functions. Panda is a library. Panda has many functions that we don't need to start learning from. NumPy, all those different libraries, that's what makes Python powerful, because someone has taken their time to write a particular thing that works, and then it's useful. For instance, last class I showed you how to use a website to be able to write code to pull particular elements within the website, particular tags. Someone had already taken time to create a beautiful soup library. That's what it's called.
And I like that name.
Yes. So yeah, that's.
If I look at the temperature converter that I did,
yes,
I had a function for Celsius.
Yes.
I had a functions for Fahrenheit within one script.
Yes.
Right. So I'm just thinking whether it is possible to have a script for Celsius to Fahrenheit, another one for Fahrenheit to Celsius, and then you import that Celsius one, or vice versa.
That is exactly what you need to do. That's why I mentioned SRP. SRP, single responsibility principle, right? Your function does only one thing and one thing only, so that if it breaks, it does not break everything else. So that's very useful in programming and many things in life. If you want to delegate stuff, tell this child to wash plates, tell that child to rinse plates, tell this person to cook food, tell this person to take care of drinks. and then everything works seamlessly.
Yeah, just that kids don't listen nowadays, so it's a problem.
Adults don't listen to. The person that's supposed to be being the goalkeeper wants to be the person that's going to score the goals. So at the end of the day, if you miss scoring the goal, they score on your own pole. So just do your single job and then work as a team, and then the team succeeds. Right? So yeah, that's what we mean by single responsibility principle. And yeah, if you do it that way, you can always nest functions. You can have a function inside a function, as I've shown you before. And it's simple. You know, we are able to use import. So not import input. Input just takes the value and output back. It does not convert it for us. If you want to convert it, you use int or float or string and so on. So each of those does only one thing, and then you can concatenate them, you can join them together, and then you do many, many, many things together. All right, so let's jump into, I think this is our last slide for the day. So this is one thing that you just pointed out, right? When you want to write your program, you have to figure out how you're going to do it. It's very important to have a setup, to have a plan. It's normal in life. Anything you want to do, plan it out. Someone without a plan is someone who is definitely not going to know if they succeeded or they failed. It's okay to fail, but with your plan, now you know you went left, you failed. Next time you're going to, you should go right, right? So again, have a plan, break everything down. For instance, the first way you can approach this is looking at a top-down design. A top-down design is known as a flowchart, right? For instance, you're asked to enter two values. We've looked at that add function. We want the user to input two values, and then when they get to a menu, they're able to decide if they want to add. If you say, do you want to add? Yes or no. If they say yes, we go ahead and do an add function. If they say no, we go ahead and do another function, which is subtract function. Regardless of whichever way they do it, we output the answer and then we stop the program. But now we want to be able to have this subtask. This is a subtask which has a rectangle with two additional tabs at the end. So a subtask here says add number 1 and number 2. And this takes you to the add number subtask. This subtask is going to make sure your answer is equal to number 1 plus number 2, and it returns that answer and stops. The second subtask is subtract number. That's going to subtract your number 1 minus number 2 and returns that answer and stop. So these are the functions. These two functions, add number and subtract number. And this will be the flow of your program. You know, in your program, you're going to prompt for the integer number 1, prompt for another integer, and then give them an option to choose if they want to add or subtract. Does this make sense? So that's the way you'd want to look at it. But for programmers, it's always better for them to have a visual representation of the relationship between functions. That's where we come in to this scenario where you have a main function. That main function has one function that's going to get the user's input. Okay, the user is going to input their hours work, and it's also going to get their hourly rate. And then you have another function that's going to calculate the gross pay. And if we want to expand on what we had in the previous slide, we can go ahead and calculate overtime. You know, we did all of that in one line. That's not necessarily the best way. We can do all of this and then make it to be single responsibility principle, or put it all in one. So that's how you break down your code into multiple pieces. Now, if you want to say calculate the paycheck, you also need to check out tax withholdings. So to calculate the withholdings, you remove their taxes maybe, and other benefits and so on and so forth, whether it's health and dental and so on. And then you get the net pay from there. From here, you can see these are different functions that you have set up. You know, the functions could have inputs and outputs, but that shows you how they are related. But normally, all of these are in one program. If you have one program that has many functions, you can set it up that way and run it, rather than having each single file in a folder, you can have many functions within a single file. So that way you don't have to worry about this one is within this folder and that folder. All the related functions are in one file. Does that make sense?
Can you just repeat that again? I think I missed.
Okay,
something.
so for instance, in our code, we want to be able to calculate the paycheck, right? Or a particular salary calculation for a company. Rather than having a file that has just get input, another file that has another function for getting the works, another function for gross pay, what we do is we have one file that has all of these functions together, similar to the file that I had. One file that has 10 different functions, which do a particular function, a particular thing.
One file or one folder?
One file.
Okay.
So one file that has all of these, but that file has 10 functions. In this case, I don't know how many functions, but now when you go within that file, you can pick a particular function. So for instance, in Python, you had, let me go back. Oops, right there. In Python, you have all these built-in functions. All of these functions are in one file. So in that file, there's a function for abs, there's a function for max, there's a function for min, and so on and so forth. So you don't have to go into each folder. So just like pandas, pandas is one folder, but it has a file that is going to, I don't know if that's a better example. Let's say math, for instance. Pandas will be one folder, but it has a file for math. It has a file for, let's say, SQL. It has another file for database stuff. It has several files. Each of those files have functions for that particular purpose.
Okay. I think I get it now.
Right. That way you don't have to go from one folder to another to navigate through to get it. So that's what makes it useful. And then you can have that relationship in there. Does that make sense?
Yeah. Thank you.
You're welcome. So now that we've gone through all of that, the next thing we have to do is practice. But before we practice, let me just go ahead and recap on everything that we've done. Right? Obviously, we're going to practice basic functions in real-world scenario. We'll look at math functions that are built in, math functions that are imported, just like we imported that file. We can define our own functions. We can have functions with 0, 1, or more parameters. And we can use keyword arguments, which Fabian loves right now. And we can decide if we want to return value or just print it out to the screen. So at the end of the day, the things that we were able to capture, the basics of functions. We looked at the benefits, which we can already start experiencing. We looked at built-in functions that come with the Python installed. And we looked at user-defined functions. We also went ahead to define our own functions. We called functions. You can call functions that are built in, or you can call functions that you yourself define. And we differentiated between arguments and parameters. Parameters go in parentheses. Those are parameter variables that you use within your function. But the arguments are actually the values, the data that is passed into the function. Now we are able to have functions that are fruitful, they return values, or you can have functions that are void, that don't return anything. And throughout, we're able to debug a few error messages that we see when we don't follow the Pythonic way of coding. But let's go back now and look at some basic examples. What questions do you have? So let's start with a basic function that we are very familiar with. I mean, everybody knows the input function, right? We've looked at the input function, we looked at the print function, and so on and so forth. Maybe we want to start looking at how we can answer the question we had for exercise 3, right? Exercise 3 wanted us to do rock, paper, scissors game. So in this game, you wanted the computer to always choose rock. So how do we do that? Any idea?
Yeah. You want me to show what I did? I submitted to you.
Yeah, you can go ahead. Let me stop my screen share.
Okay.
You can go ahead and share your code, and then we can go from there. That would be wonderful.
Okay, let me see if I can do this.
Excellent.
I'm just warning everybody. I don't want anybody to laugh. I'm
I'm already laughing.
Go, Aaron. Go, Aaron. Go, Aaron.
let me see. Present the entire screen. Which one is this? Let me see which one is gonna come up. Okay, good. I want to share this one. Oh no, I want to share this one. This one. White screen too. Oh, wait. I have the wrong one. Sorry, give me one second.
Okay. That's okay. Yeah, we can wait.
Wait, then I'm nervous.
Oh my goodness.
Okay. I'm gonna do this.
Just share the right one with the millions.
Oh. Oh, if that was the case, man, I'll be enjoying somewhere in Africa.
Thank you.
Okay, so let me see now. Okay, share screen. I'm gonna share the entire screen, and then I'll do this one. I'll share that one. Okay, let me know if you can see.
Yes, we can see.
Okay. The first thing I learned was this, and this
okay,
one.
Can you try making your screen? There you go. There
Yeah.
you go. Perfect.
Okay, is that good enough?
Yes, that's great.
Cool. And the next one I learned was this, so I can go now to. Oh yeah, this is the one. And then I can take this back out.
There you go.
So I again, this is the assignment that I just copied from my own.
Yes, that's very good. You just added it as a comment. Excellent.
Yes. Actually, I imported the random. I don't know if it's library or a file. Random
that's a module. You imported a random module.
Yeah, which afterwards I thought, you know what? Maybe it's not necessary because computer is just going to give me rock. That's the only thing I need.
Exactly. Yes.
Which is okay. So again, I assigned what I want the computer to generate to computer choice.
Yeah.
And then I asked for the player's name. I wanted to count how many times the game was played.
Yeah.
And then I did all this stuff, just create more space. But this is actually where I started. User option, choose the following options: 1 for rock, 2 for paper, 3 for scissors, and this one to quit the game.
There you go.
And then I generated my random stuff again, which I could have just, because it's just one option, right? So, but it's good.
Yes.
So I think with this right now, if I have to expand to all the 3 outputs, I'll just put a comma here. And then I add those other ones so that the computer can generate rock, scissors, and paper as well.
Exactly. Right. Mm-hmm. That's right.
Yeah. So I said, while user option is not equals to this one, which is to quit the program.
Yeah.
I start to count how many times the player is playing. And then I compare the computer option to the user option. Yeah. And then I print out the logical statement right here.
There you go.
Right. So I use the elif statement for all the possible outcomes. And then if you enter anything that is not an option, it tells you invalid, and then it gives you that. And then I use this one to stop my program from getting into an infinite loop.
Okay.
Because I'm using the while option loop here. So I use that to stop it. And then once I exit the while loop, I print thank you for your participation. And then I print number of times that game was played.
Excellent.
And then I stop. So when I run this stuff here, hopefully I don't have an error right now that everybody's looking at me. Okay, so it says now, just want to call out why I was really struggling. Um, and I got this very late in the night yesterday. I was saying that this option is equal to 2. And then I realized that the input here was coming in as a string. So this
Yes.
thing was always giving me, some weird outcome.
Yeah, that's right.
So I did that. So when I do this, if I choose number 2, it tells me, oh, wait, let me pull this one up. Let me see if this thing is working. Okay, so I will run it again. If I pull, oh, wait. Okay, I'll start it again now, and then we should be good. Just want to clear everything. And for some reason, I can use clear now, so I didn't know about this stuff.
Yes, you can use clear.
So it says, what is your name? I'm going to use Fabian. Yes, he's on fire. It says, welcome. Let's get started. Enter your option. Number 2, it tells me that, again, the computer is generating just rock, right?
Yes.
And option number 2 is paper. So pair the outcome there, paper wins. Therefore, Fabian is the winner.
Excellent.
If I do 3, it tells me, again, computer generates rock, scissors, pair the option. The computer is a winner. And then if I'm done, I'm tired, I want to go home, do that. It tells me, thank you for your participation, Fabian. And Fabian played 2 games.
There you go.
Yeah.
Excellent.
My
Are we in the same class?
I think we are. We are. What I'm trying to do is just to add everything that I got from day 1 to today.
Yes.
Each time I have an assignment.
That is excellent. You have to keep building on it. Very good.
Yes. So I think my next thing to learn is I want to output how many games Fabian got, which is 2, and out of that, how many times he won.
I see. Very good. So
That will be the next extension.
Yeah, to do that, how do you think you're going to go about doing it?
I'm just gonna count. Again, it's just counting how many times, like, because right now I'm using just rock. So if I have paper and how many times I have paper will give me the number of times that Fabian wins.
That's right.
And anytime I have rock, if I count that, I'm going to use a counter, just like I did with this one. It's going to give me the number of times that the computer actually won. So at the end of the day, it's going to say you played 4 games, you won 2, 50%, and the computer won 50%, something like that.
Yeah.
Just
so my first advice would be, making use of your program flow. Okay, coming up with a plan. When you have a plan, it's a lot easier for you to go ahead and debug your code and try to see what works and what needs to be modified. So you can even use a piece of paper, pen and a paper, draw it out. Say, okay, in the beginning, I need you to enter this value, enter that value. If this value is equal to that value, do that. So then you can start having functions. You can start creating modules that do each part, just like we talked about in the flow of the program.
Yeah, that is very important. I think it's something, again, in my normal life at work, I always do that, right?
Excellent.
Right.
Yeah, and so it's funny because that's the first thing I always teach in class, and people are always eager to start coding, and they're like, why do we need this? And the first time I give an assessment, everybody gets excited. You want to jump in and start coding, and then you get into trouble. You start confusing and trying to make shortcuts, but it's better to take 30 minutes. If you have 3 hours to code or 2 hours to code or 30 minutes to code, take 10 minutes and draw your plan and say, this is what I want to do. I mean, nobody builds a house without a plan. Otherwise, somebody will come tomorrow and say, you should have built 10 rooms. Another person will come tomorrow and say, you could have had a pool. You could have had a story building. At the end of the day, you will not go anywhere because you keep breaking down the house and making changes. But when you have your plan and okay, I'm building 5 rooms. This is what I'm going to do. That's what I'm not going to do. You proceed step by step and finish it out. So having a plan, let me see if, again, setting things up from the onset, say, okay, I need to follow this route and change this here and so on and so forth. I think you do it very easily. You should be fine.
Yeah. One other thing that I was challenging too is that if I like my computer choice here,
yeah,
if I don't put it within the list, what the selection is the string, right? It selects every single word as an outcome.
Yeah.
And then I got to learn that I have to put it within this year. So
how did you come up with line 19? How did you come up with random.choice?
So random.choice, I think let me see. Let me make this to work. Give me 1 second. Sorry. Random.choice. I think did I do that? Okay, because it came up when I click at the side of that function. Let me see. I was trying to see everything that function has.
Okay, so you put a period.
Sorry, the random that the random has.
Yes.
As a function.
Okay, so after that line, maybe go to the next line and then type random.
Which line? This one?
Line 11.
Okay.
Yep, and then type random.
Yeah.
And then period. And now you see all the different. So that random is actually the file. In that random file, you have multiple functions.
Yes, so this is what I use.
Okay, so that choice, if you use your arrow key on your keyboard and start going down, if you press the down arrow or if you hover on top of it, it will tell you what each one of them does. So random rand int, if you put your mouse on top of it, it should probably tell you what exactly that function does. I think you just need to hover it and let it sit there for a second. It should come up and tell you what exactly it does. Maybe not in your case, but okay, click on it. If you click on it and say hover on top of random.int on line 11.
What is that? So
no, it's already in line 11 in the back. Yep. So click on it. And maybe put your mouse on top. There you go. Yeah. So it returns a random integer in a range A and B. So it's telling you what it expects as the input.
Exactly.
It expects you to enter an integer as an input. So you can create random numbers between 2 variables, which is what I'm actually going to show you guys next, the piece of code that we want to do. So rock, paper, scissors looks like you're very good with that. Everybody should easily get that one, right? Sounds good?
Yes. I don't know about the easy piece, but yes.
Yeah, no, it looks really comfortable for everybody so far. Everybody is good with input. Now I just want to make sure I can show you how you can use a particular piece of code and make it repeatable, right?
Yeah.
That way, if it's repeatable, you can use it over and over. If you can use it for what I'm about to show you, then you definitely be able to use it for rock, paper, scissors as well. Does that make sense?
Cool. Can I stop sharing now?
Oh, yes, you can stop sharing if that's fine.
Thank you for looking at this.
I can go ahead and start sharing my code. Very good job. Excellent work there. So let's see, share entire screen. All right, can you see my screen?
It's loading. Yes, now I can see it.
Okay, so very similar to what you did. This is what I had on my end for rock, paper, scissors. In this case, again, importing the random, and then your computer choice is going to randomly choose from these three.
Yeah.
So rather than having number 1, 2, and 3, I just have those in there. And then I'm asking my user do you want to input rock, paper, or scissors? So if the computer's choice is the same as the user's choice,
yes,
it's a tie. Right?
Yeah.
But else, if the user's choice is rock and the computer's choice is scissors, guess what? When output, the computer had that.
Yeah.
Okay. Because we don't know what the computer gets. We need to always print it out because it's randomly selected.
Exactly. Yeah.
Okay. So to make sure that you want to count, let's say user wins, we can go ahead and create a bucket to hold the number of user wins.
Yeah.
So if you win, right? Let's see, who wins the first time? If you have a rock and the computer has the scissors, you win, right? So if you win, you want to go ahead and say user win and add plus plus. So this just increases the number of wins.
Yeah.
Right? Also, we want to be able to use that every single time the user wins.
Yeah.
Oh no, that's horrible. Let's make a mistake. This happens to me each time I use difference of using Windows and Mac. I always have a hard time with copying and pasting. Yeah, so each time you win, we increase your number of times. And then if you lose, we don't increase it. But then we can use a loop to say, okay, run this until the user is tired or the user enters queue like you did. Sounds good?
Yeah.
So that's a simple way of doing that. Now, in this other example, what I wanted to do was, nope, that's wrong. Let's see. What I wanted to do was do another example where we're actually writing code for playing dice, right? Let's say everybody knows how to play dice, right?
Ludo.
Yeah. So in this case, let's say it's a dice game, a PY. In this case, we're going to use 2 dice, right?
Yeah.
So again, if we're going to roll dice, we need to randomly choose numbers between 1 and 6, right? So if we're going to randomly choose numbers, we definitely need to import the random module. Let's import the random module and let's roll the dice.
Quick question here on this import. Sometimes I see import, for example, random as something, right? Then versus just random. What is the difference?
Okay, so let's say random as R. We're using R as alias. That's because in this case, I probably want to be lazy. I don't want to type random each time.
Oh.
Right? But if it's something complicated from this import, blah, 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 if you're pulling it from a folder that has many modules and many things in there, and then you want to select just one function in there, okay? Let's say random dot ran int, or let's say random import ran int. So now I'm importing just that particular function. I'm not importing the entire file. Does that make sense?
Yes, it does.
Yeah, so it depends on, sometimes you might have some really big libraries that you don't need the whole library to be imported to your code and make it too bulky. You might want to pick just one file. In some cases, you might have one file that has many functions, which is a large file. Then you want to pick just a particular function within the file. but now I'm giving it an alias. So every time I use R, that's what I'm referring to. Does that make sense? So now we want to roll a dice. If we want to roll a dice, we define a function and say roll dice. It does not take any input. All we need to do is say the dice total would be equal to rolling each of those dice. So I'll have R in quotes. Now, just by putting R, it knows that I'm referring to random int. That's why you see it's telling me random integer in range A and B. So the range I need is 1 and 6. Does that make sense? But that's just for one. And then I need to create another one. Let's say we're doing 2 dice. So I could have just said 1 and 12, but that's not going to truly show that I'm rolling 2 dice. It's just going to give me a number between 1 and 12. But if I do it twice, then I'm picking a number randomly between 1 and 6 and then doing it again and adding the 2 of them together. So it actually simulates 2 rolls rather than just getting 1, 12, 1 and 12. Okay? So after rolling that die, I want to return the value. What do I return? The dice total. So now that the dice total has been returned, I can go ahead and define my main function. Okay, the main function is what actually executes my program, because at the end of the day, that's what I'm going to call. So next thing I want to say is player number 1 should be equal to, let's say, what was the name of that function? I think I had a function. I should probably import it to this function right here.
Yeah.
Yep. So let's see, it's called enter input. So let's go ahead and say function import enter input as let's say user input. That's even long.
So in that case, is there any benefits you have alias?
Yeah, the alias is just making you have a what do I call it? A shortcut per se.
Yeah.
Right? Instead of you calling my full name Zekeze, you just call me DK all the time, so it's easy. Right? So let's see, now we've imported the enter input function as U. I can go ahead and say U, and then I would say player 1. It's going to ask for player 1 to enter their name, right? And oops, why did I do that? I need to do it back. Excellent. I used to have a shortcut that I used, but obviously it's not being friendly with me. That's fine. So player 2, let's go ahead and enter player 2. So we've entered the 2 players. Now I can go ahead and roll the dice for player 1. So roll player 1. What they're going to do is roll those dice. I don't have any input because the roll dice does not have any parameters.
Yeah.
And roll for player 2. Then give me roll dice 10. So now I'll end up with 2 random numbers between 1 and 12. Now I can go ahead and output my values by printing it. All I have to do and say player 1 rolled whatever roll That was same for player 2. Copy that and paste it. That makes sense?
Yeah.
So I've asked the player 1 to enter their name, player 2 to enter their name, player 1 rolls their dice, player 2 rolls their dice. I print out their output. Let me go ahead and add some comments in there. Get names of players. And each player rolls die. And print the output. So after printing it, we need to know who the winner is. Okay. So again, let's go ahead and use a conditional function to say find winner. Go ahead and say if row 1 is greater than row 2, then who is the winner? Player 1 wins, right?
Yeah.
So player 1 wins. Now we want to also check if they are not the winner or if it's the reverse. So I'll go ahead and use an elif. If player 2 is greater than player 1, player 2 wins. Otherwise, we have a tie. That's it. So after doing all of that, we can then go ahead and execute this main function. Okay, because we've defined our roll dice variable, we've defined a main function. We can now go ahead and execute it. Execute it just by calling main. That's it. 30 lines of code, we've been able to get roll dice to function properly for us. So let's go ahead and try executing this. Any questions before I execute it?
No.
All right, so let's execute
yes,
that.
Please.
Yes.
So when we were doing the structure of a function, we saw that
Yes.
to end the function, you use like return. So the main here is in place of return or no? The
Very
main
good
on line
question.
30.
Very good question. The main function is having a few print lines, right?
Yes.
It's printing a bunch of things for us, whether they win or not. The return in this case is on line 7 because that's where the real action is taking place. So the action is taking place when you roll the dice. If you roll the dice, you return that value. Now we are comparing these two. We can actually pull this out completely to be in another function. Maybe we can create a function that says find winner.
Yeah.
Right? Does that make sense?
Okay.
So we can do a function that says find winner. Again, like I said, writing code is a piece of art. It's up to you. We can decide to, rather than do all of this, we could just use another function which is built in actually, which is max. And then all you have to do is maximum of the two values, what you rolled, what player 1 rolled and what player 2 rolled. Whichever is the maximum will then be telling you who is the winner. But instead of using max, we're using greater than in there. So it's up to you which way you want to use it. If you want the main function is usually like the body of the function that everything else falls inside. So that we can use that and call it, and it should work just fine. And again, I think when you save this file and open that file, the main function executes automatically. Just like a web page, when you go to a folder that has a web page, it automatically goes to the index.html. Right? So let's execute this and see where we get. So it wants enter player 1. Let's try and see if Aaron knows how to play dice. Ooh, we have an error. Why is there an error? Because we converted everything, the input, to an integer. And it's not able to convert Aaron to an integer. So that was a bad move for us. So maybe we need to change that and not have an integer. So in here, we have that integer conversion.
Yeah, I struggled with that last night.
Yes. So again, we might need to get another function in here that does not take an integer. Let me go ahead and just cheat. In this case, we don't want to convert to an integer. Let's copy that and paste. So I'm going to, yeah, I don't think we need that actually, because we're just getting an input. So if we're just getting an input, all I can do there is just get an input, blah, 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 blah. Yeah, instead of u, I'm just going to comment this out. We don't need that. And instead of u here, I'm just going to get input.
Yeah.
Should not have caps. Yep. So it's just going to say player 1 with a column and new line, with a column and new line. We've already seen how to use the functions before, so that's fine. Now let's execute this. It wants player 1. And let's see, get Aaron back on there and Adolf. All right. So layer 2 was Adolf. Aaron rolled 5 and Adolf rolled 8. So Adolf wins. All right. Let's clear this out again. There's a lot of students in here whose names start with A. So let's try one more execution. We have Anne, and we also have Fabian. Anne rolled 10 and Fabian. Fabian, how can you roll 3 when you have 2 chances to roll?
He got 1 and 2 respectively. So
I'm telling you, that's wonderfully horrible. So yeah, that's just how you go about doing a simple piece of code to do that execution. But in a very similar light, you can do that for just rock, paper, scissors, and then you still have a few hours before you turn in your homework for today. And with that, I think we have gone about 8 minutes over our time today. But it looks good so far. I think we're able to cover everything that we needed to do today. And just a quick recap again. We're able to go through the basics and benefits of functions. We also went through built-in and user-defined functions, defining and calling functions, arguments, parameters, voids, and return types, and debugged a few errors. All right. So what questions do you have?
I think this will be the last one. So how do you get to know, for example, maybe I should ask Aaron, how did he know that he should use random? And you were saying there is a function max. If I'm writing a code, how do I get to know? Does it just come with practice, learning one maybe at a time and knowing? Or
very, very good, very good. So it comes with practice also and research. So for instance, in here, I gave you a list of built-in functions, right? So you can always research and see the list of built-in functions, right? You can use max to compare 2 functions, and you can also, let me escape out of this and see if I can do that. Actually, I wanted to, yeah, let me drag this over. Yeah, you can use max to compare new functions and so on. But one thing you might want to do is you go to Python, built-in functions, maximize this back. Obviously, you want to go to python.org. It has the documentation of all those built-in functions as you see in here.
Oh, okay.
Okay, so you can click on each one. Let's say float. If you click on float, it tells you what it does. But if you want to import functions, important functions that you can see are math functions. So let's say Python math functions. There are a bunch of other functions in there. So that's a library. As you can see, it shows you it's a math library. Math.ceil gives you the rounding up per se. You know, you can do factorials, you can return absolute values, you know, you can do sums and exponents, sine, cosine, square roots, and so on and so forth. So there are a bunch of functions out there, so many. You know, you have power, logarithmic, trigonometry, angular, hyperbolic, spatial functions, and so on and so forth. So like I said, Python is very versatile, okay? If you want to look at constants, again, this is pi. If you want to see the floating point positive infinity, they can give you that as well, and so on and so forth. So these are some of the examples. All you have to do is import math, in this case, and then you see all of those. But what Aaron did was he went a step further. Rather than doing just the rock, he was able to do random. So if I was going to ask you that question to make it random, I could have recommended that go ahead and research the random library, should I say module, to be able to import it. Does that make sense?
Yes,
and I think a
sense.
lot in Excel. So because I know a bit of Excel, I think from the Excel part of it, and then I look for the answer.
Excellent, excellent. But yeah, again, we'll talk about a lot of that. I updated our schedule. So right now we're looking at functions. Tomorrow we'll look at collections and sequences. But at the last week, we'll look at libraries and frameworks. And then I'll also look at some tools. I know we've used Jupyter Notebook. We've used Visual Studio Code, and also looked at how we can push stuff out to GitHub. So I'll look at any other tools that would help you leverage your skill sets and also be able to give you competitive advantage in the market per se. Does that sound good?
Awesome. I can see Aaron already setting up that casino business where he will convert all the user input to a computer winning thing.
Excellent, excellent. So yeah, we'll be able to leverage all of this. You know, we are definitely halfway through the course, and I'm glad that I'm seeing some productive output, right? We're halfway through on day 5. By the time we get to day 8, you guys will be very, very, very comfortable. So keep fighting, keep pushing, and I'll talk to you tomorrow at 1 Eastern time. Sounds good?
Thank you. Thanks.